The technology is cooperating. We should all be on Facebook Live right now. Hopefully that's working. Are we live? All right, terrific.
Hey,
Piscataway. And welcome to the second live stream community chat with the 2020 Dems on Your Side candidates. Again, please bear with us as we try to work through the new technology. We're working on improving our format since last week, and hopefully our internet connections will stay stable. Sometimes the audio might get a little choppy, but we're certainly doing the best we can. And you know, hopefully you'll be able to see and hear us. Hopefully the share screen works. So we hope that you and your family and friends are staying well and safe during this difficult time. And we want to remind you that if you're able to offer, or if you're in need of non-emergency assistance, we have formed a neighborhood aid network where neighbors can sign up to help each other out with non-emergency needs. So you can sign up at this link that's on the screen right now, tinyurl.com/neighbors.
I'm trying to see mine now.
Okay, now this, of course, has been a difficult adjustment for all of us, but it's important that we continue to follow the governor's stay-at-home and social distancing guidelines to stop the spread of this disease as soon as we can. And we keep ourselves productive in the meantime while we're at home by doing things that we enjoy, and if we can, taking advantage of the extra time that we're spending with family. I know that I've enjoyed getting to spend a lot more time with my family and kids. We've been playing a lot of board games together, and you know, sometimes they even let me win, which is nice. Although the kids certainly don't let me win at the video games. Except maybe for hockey, but that's another story. So Billy, if you're watching, I'm coming for the Stanley Cup later on. My name is Irwin, and I'm running for mayor in this year's Democratic primary, which has been moved to July 7th. So everybody, please be aware of the primary election date change. Governor Murphy issued Executive Order 120, which moved the primary to July 7th, and other deadlines have also been extended, including the deadlines for voter registration and party affiliation changes. And you can read Executive Order 120 at the link on the screen, or just Executive Order 120, and it's sure to come up. Also, today's presentation slides will be posted somewhere around 4 p.m. The webpage is still under construction, so please be patient with us. But today's presentation slides will be posted at www.pewayprogressives.com 2020-candidates. And for more information on us and our campaign, you can read our platform at tinyurl.com/pewayplatform. So I'm joined today by candidates for council at large, Kamuela Tillman, Ralph Johnson, and Laura Leibowtiz. Would you like to introduce yourselves? We may have lost Nikki for the moment, so Laura, would you like to go first?
Sure, I would be happy to do so. I want to echo your remarks, Bill, that yes, it certainly has been a challenge being home together, a lot of family togetherness, but of course we need to do everything we can to stay safe and flatten the curve. I am Laura Leibowtiz, and I'm running for town council. This week, my family and I are celebrating the Jewish holiday of Passover. This holiday retells the story of the enslaved Jewish people from the land of Egypt to a land of freedom. Anyone that has ever watched the Ten Commandments, the Prince of Egypt, or even Rugrats Passover, should be familiar with the story. It can be found in the book of Exodus, in the Torah, or the Old Testament. However, the contemporary values and importance of Passover are universal, casting a wide net of family and friends across generations to share the stories and meaning of our cultural and religious stories, which we did this year with my family on a Zoom call. The relevance of remembering our past and honoring our leaders, especially those who fight against established power structures. The recognition of the spring season with its messages of rebirth and renewal and the everlasting importance of embracing freedom for people everywhere and in every generation. I want to wish everyone a very meaningful and joyous Passover and spring season for each of us and our families. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura. Nikki, I see you're back with us. You want to say hi?
And she's frozen.
She might be frozen.
All right, go ahead, Ralph.
All right.
Looking happy. Frozen.
Hello,
smile.
Facebook's family. How's everyone doing during this season? I understand we're in unprecedented times. So let me just introduce myself to you. I am Ralph Johnson, running for City Council at large. I've been a resident here for nearly 20 years. Being from a family of an Army rat, I moved all over the world and moved from most cities, from Providence, Rhode Island, Springfield, Massachusetts, to New Haven, Connecticut, and to Newark, New Jersey. And moving to Piscataway was a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely. Hi, my name is Kamuela Tillman.
Hey, Nikki, how are you?
And I am the proud Piscataway candidate for council.
There we go. I think we see you, Nikki. So, Nikki, what am I going to do? I'm going to ask you to hold on, Nikki. If you don't mind, I'll go while we get you some technical difficulties. We're going to text you right now to let you know that you're frozen. Might be the internet connection. But as I was mentioning.
Oh, man, can y'all see me? Like, this is technology. Can y'all see me?
No, you're frozen, Nikki.
No, can I be seen?
No, you're frozen.
Right.
I can hear you, though.
I don't know what you guys see. I can see myself, and I'm so is this a go? Can I? Okay.
So tell you what,
Sounds
Nikki,
good.
Speak.
Okay. I don't know why I'm frozen.
Nikki, can you hear us?
Okay. You can hear me. That's all that matters.
Yes. Just go ahead and speak. We know your face. Nikki, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, so what's
Okay.
happening? Your face is frozen, but we can hear you.
Well,
so why don't
good
you go ahead and
afternoon
speak?
and happy Easter to you all. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. If you can hear me, I bid you a good. Okay, if you can hear me, I bid you a good afternoon and happy Easter to everyone. My name is Kamuela Nikki Tillman, and I am the proud Piscataway candidate for council at large. I'm already working hard on your side with Stacey Berger as the historically elected Middlesex County Committeewoman for Piscataway Ward 3, District 2. I am running to revive the broken relationships between elected officials and the constituents they are elected to serve, and to restore the ideas of service to the Piscataway residents. One of the many ways to do this is by keeping the platform of communication and information open for ideas to be shared and concerns to be addressed. In addition, tapping into the valuable resources and knowledge of our Piscataway residents and friends, and using them to revive the many town advisory boards that they can serve on, so that collectively we are all working together to move Piscataway Township into the vision and the mission that it has for its residents. Thank you.
Great job, Nikki. That was awesome. We heard you. It went well. Again, I won't go through too much longer, but again, I'm Ralph Johnson.
Good.
Running for city council. And as I said, I've been here for nearly 20 years. I moved from town to town, being the son of an Army brat. So in doing so, moving to Piscataway was a breath of fresh air, coming from what we call a concrete jungle to now tree-lined streets. That is a wonderful thing that I wanted my wife and children to enjoy for time and time again. I plan on being here longer, God willing, once I retire. And for those all of you in law enforcement and also first responders, continue to stay safe as we go out here and battle against this COVID-19. But the reason that I'm running is I've been an active member since being here. I remember watching a movie and it always says, either get busy living or get busy dying. And since being here in this town for 20 years, I've been elected to the third term for Piscataway School Board for 3 years. So that makes 9 years altogether. I've been a member of Zion Hill Baptist Church, men's and youth ministry. I've been a football, baseball, and also mentor in this town. So I want to be an active voice for you and those who are the voiceless and be a beacon of information. And for all of you, I want to say happy Easter, happy Passover. For those of you preparing for Ramadan, be well.
All right. Thank you very much, Ralph. And thank you for your service. We know that you're in law enforcement, and really working a lot of overtime these days, helping to keep it safe in this crisis, and we really appreciate that. And Laura and Kamuela, you're both educators, and we're so thankful for everything that our teachers and the faculty and staff and administration have been doing to keep our kids learning while they're staying at home. I know that both of my boys have been busy with their schoolwork. So thank you for that. That's a great effort. And again, my name is Bill Irwin, and I'm running for mayor because I believe that government should be open and honest and transparent and serve the interests of the people, not the politically connected. I believe that we should be represented by people like ourselves, not career politicians. And I believe that in order for that to happen, we need new, independent voices in government that are not beholden to political bosses, special interests, and big campaign donors. I would also like to wish everyone a happy Easter and Passover. We're celebrating both in my house, so it's a fun time of year. And to our Hindu and Sikh friends who are celebrating Solar New Year and Spring Harvest, we wish them a happy Vaisakhi holiday. And we also extend greetings to our Muslim friends who are preparing for a month of fasting and spiritual reflection during the holy month of Ramadan. Oh, I'm sorry, I have a little trouble with there we go, the technology. There are so many holidays to be celebrated this time of year that it's a good time to reflect upon the wonderful diversity that we have here in Piscataway. The motto of the United States, E pluribus unum, or out of many one, really applies here in Piscataway, where we are of many faiths, but we are one community, and it is our unity that makes us strong. So a very happy holiday season to us all. Now, today's topic, or the main topic of our discussion today, is pilot programs and what they are and how they impact our tax base and the discussions that we should be having about them in our community. So to start, let's talk about what pilot programs are. Pilot stands for payment in lieu of taxes. So it's a payment that's made instead of regular property taxes. Pilots are used by a town to incentivize development by giving property tax breaks to developers. Now, unlike regular property taxes, the school system does not get a part of the pilot proceeds. 95% of them go to the municipal government and 5% of them go to the county government. And pilots help developers maximize profits. So without them, they may not do the project. And that's an important part to understand, because when there's objections to some of these projects, like warehouses being built in residential neighborhoods, you often hear from Mayor Waller or the council, well, there's nothing we can do about it. The land is zoned commercial, or it's zoned light industrial, and there's no way we can stop it. Now, the important thing to understand is that when your elected officials say they can't do anything about a development, and that development has a pilot agreement, they are lying. Period. As simple as that. Because if they didn't do the pilot, the development would not happen, and they are not obligated to enter into pilot agreements. That's a choice. It's a choice that they make to encourage and incentivize development. So it is simply not true that nothing can be done about them. And, we know sometimes, I think we may have lost Nikki temporarily. We know that sometimes, we get the runaround when we're asking questions, and that's one way that happens. Ralph, I think you've had some experience with getting that runaround, or them denying personal responsibility for something that they've done. Oh, you're muted, Ralph.
Yes, Bill. Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Again, when they say they can't accept responsibility, they can't do anything, that is a fallacy, because they can. And quite often they've denied responsibility for several things. One of being which is that they truly care. One of the things that I'm very passionate about is football. Obviously, football gave me the ability to get to college and then move on to getting a master's program. Behind me is actually one of my football jerseys encased in glass, along with national championship jerseys and different memorabilia that I have, most of which I've given to my father, who's passed away at this point, over 5 years now. But as being a coach, one of the things that I stressed was that this is about building character, not just about sports. And as you can see, without sports in the world during this time, it's been very traumatic for people to move on and be able to come together. Well, being in sports, I was an advocate for the children and safety. And one of the things we're talking about is accountability, getting coaches, having enough supervision. And one of the greatest things about being a voice, people tend to come to you for solutions. And when the town started seeing that this was becoming a platform for me, the first thing they want to do was silence me. To this day, they say they didn't fire me because technically you can't fire someone from volunteerism, but you can make it difficult that they can never be a part of it. They will never accept your application. And it hurts because so many kids to this day that I train or I help develop now are wondering what happened, as though I abandoned them. And it's very sad because it really hurts the children. And from time to time, they'll say, oh, we're going in a new direction, but yet don't have enough coaches to facilitate enough safety or supervision or training for those children. To this day, they still say, oh, no, you can apply, but they keep denying access. So I've yet to be on the football field, the baseball field for the last 7 years.
Right, Ralph. So my understanding is they removed you. They wouldn't let you coach anymore after you ran for office in 2017.
Yes, once I ran for office in 2017, they did not allow me anymore. I've asked at that point was the acting director was John Tierney. At that point, he had no idea, but he also had the answer to the mayor. And they, to this point, to this day, they say they don't know. They don't know why. We just want to go in a new direction. But yet we were the most successful program that we had academically as well. And that was the forefront of everything, having young scholars.
So really, we're talking about folks that would, that would not let a person coach kids as political retribution, and then want to go around and deny responsibility for it, which really is wrong. But it's in keeping with what's going on with the pilots, and how they always want to say, well, there's nothing we can do about that. But now that we've established that these projects are not something that are just happening and that elected officials have no control over, but instead are part of a plan being actively pursued and encouraged by the mayor and council, we really need to think about what the implications of this plan are for our quality of life and for the town finances. Over the past several years, Mayor Waller has made corporate deals to build, massive logistical centers, which is another word for truck depots and warehouses, all over Piscataway. They call it economic diversification, but what does this strategy really cost Piscataway residents? Are they really good deals for Piscataway? We've mentioned that these projects provide benefits to developers because they allow them to make greater profits, but what are the costs to our community? The financial costs, well, actually there's two broad categories of costs. One is environmental and quality of life costs. You get more air pollution from the diesel trucking, more traffic congestion on the roads, you get more wear and tear and deterioration of our infrastructure. And And frankly, the environmental issues and impact are important enough to deserve their own broadcast. So we're going to be doing a live stream focusing solely on environmental issues in a couple of weeks. So today, let's focus on the potential financial costs. And for our viewers on Facebook that are asking questions, thank you for your feedback. We'll be getting to questions a little later on in the broadcast, and we'll try to answer what we can. And of course, if we don't get to your question, you can always reach out to us directly at any time, and we're happy to speak with you. So now, the financial costs, in some cases, the towns can actually get less revenue than they would have had without the development ever happening. And we're going to give an example of that later on. Also with the pilot programs, you have tax funds diverted from the school system. As we mentioned before, unlike regular property taxes, 95% of pilots goes to the municipality and 5% to the county, with nothing for the schools, which forces the school district to raise the school tax to make up for the shortfall. Again, another way of trying to shift the blame. They say, oh, well, it's the schools that are raising taxes, not us. But it was them that entered into these pilot agreements to begin with that were reducing the amount of money going to the schools. And you can also end up with reduced property values. I mean, they put up sort of slick advertising flyers to try to make these warehouses look good. And you notice even on their advertising flyer, it talks about the pilot and how it offers expense savings to whoever is going to occupy the warehouse. And, if you take a picture of it from way above with a drone at a favorable angle, maybe it doesn't look quite so bad, but we don't live up in the air on drones. This is the reality of what one of these looks like in your backyard, looming over your house, and that you have to see every day. And this was built with no regard for the residents of the neighborhood. I think property values are very much on everyone's mind, especially given the recent problems that many folks have had with the revaluations. Laura, I think you were personally affected by that. If you want to share your insights on the revaluation mess.
Yeah, I do want to speak to that. When it came time for our reeval taxes, first of all, I've lived here for 15 years, and the first 10 years, I didn't have any reevaluation. And then the last 5 years, I noticed every year, they've changed the timetable. So this year I was very surprised that my tax evaluation had gone up so significantly. It went up over $55,000 this year. And from 2015 to 2020, there was a $266,000 evaluation change in my property. It's a crazy amount. I haven't made any changes to my residence, which I did, but I have not, or my land. It was a ridiculous jump. I definitely noticed that. I also saw on Facebook that other people in town were experiencing the same thing. I called the municipal tax office, and they said they were going to look into it and send me a letter. Different people were told different things. We later learned, but I was told then that I would have to go through the whole process of filing a tax appeal. Our campaign, and I'm proud of us because these are the kinds of things that we do, identified that something was wrong. We did some quick research, and we sent a letter to the state treasurer to ask her for help. Thank you for sharing that, Bill. I'm proud but not surprised that a few hours later, the letter was published. Waller and Company announced they had found an error in the computer program, and the municipality would resolve all the complaints without cost or action on the homeowner's part. If we hadn't made this public, reached out and advocated for that change, every individual would have had to appeal on their own at their own time and expense. This advocacy is a hallmark of what we have been doing. This is what we believe in. And as Ralph has said, and we've said already, people are already looking to us to make these changes. We're not even in office, and they are seeing us as a voice for change, for honesty, for advocacy. We speak up, we reach out, educate and inform, and we win. I really encourage everyone to look at their assessments. I have to say, even the new proposed assessment is way higher than the comps for my home and my neighborhood. I have no idea how the town came up with these numbers. They completely off base. The tax evaluation system is actually a bit of a game. So while the tax rate may go down or stay the same, the property valuation increases, and then you're still paying more. So it's a shell game. These are tricks that are played, and we need to pay attention, and they need to be changed. Transparency is one of the main reasons, and it's part of our platform, open government and transparency. And so I'm sorry to say that is the story, and this is what I will be doing with my spring break, is filing a tax appeal.
And you shouldn't have had to have done that. It was their mistake, and it should be corrected properly. But
Not at all.
sharing that with us. You know, a moment ago we were talking about how it's possible for a pilot to actually reduce tax revenue. Now, I'm sure that sounds crazy, and it would raise the question of why would they ever enter into such an agreement, which we'll touch on later. But for now, let's talk about how you would get information about how pilots are affecting our town's finances, because we're not only committed to, you know, advocating for the people of Piscataway, as Laura just mentioned, like with the letter we sent recently, but we also want to share information with folks so they know where they can get it. The information on pilots is supposed to be information that is easily accessible to the public. In 2015, the New Jersey Local Finance Board adopted NJAC 533-8, which requires municipalities to include a document known as the user-friendly budget with all introduced and adopted municipal budgets. Now, the three main purposes of it are to summarize the annual municipal operating budget, to display information on key cost drivers, and most importantly, to better explain the municipal budget's impact on local property taxes. And the user-friendly budget is put in a format that makes this information, you know, very easy to see. And the first page of it looks like this. This is from 2018, from Piscataway's budget. And this is what the first page of every municipal budget should look like. The first page of the user-friendly budget, and then there's about 9 more pages of that user-friendly budget. And one of those pages, and I know it's a little hard to see the detail on the screen here, but it's a form known as UFB 6, which gives detail on long-term tax exemptions or pilot agreements that a community has entered into. And that detail includes what the pilot billing is, what the assessed value of the property is, and also what the taxes would have been on that property if they were assessed in full at the regular tax rate. Now, at the end of 2017, there were only a few of these agreements in place in Piscataway, and this form details them. I happen to doubt the accuracy of these numbers here about the taxes if billed in full at the 2017 rate, but that's a discussion for another day. At least in the 2018 budget, we can see that document. Now, if we go to the first page of the 2019 budget on Piscataway's website, we see this. And this is not the user-friendly budget that is supposed to be there. In fact, if you scroll through all 84 pages of this budget, you will not find the user-friendly budget anywhere, even though it is required by law to be included with the municipal budget. If we look at the 2020 introduced budget, we see the same thing. Now, once again, if you scroll through all 168 pages of this budget, you will not find the user-friendly budget anyway. Now, as we discussed above, the purpose of the user-friendly budget is to provide the residents of the town with an easy way to look at the municipal budget's tax impact on property taxes, and importantly, it also details the effects of all the pilot agreements that a town has entered into, which happens to be the information, you know, that exactly the information that we're interested in looking at. And it's not being provided to us on these documents. And even though it's required by law to be there, it isn't. Which begs the question, what are they hiding? Why don't they want us to see documents that are supposed to be there by law? Now, Nikki, I know that you're passionate about open government. That's honest with people. You know, what do
Absolutely.
you think of all this?
Bill. I mean, and that's exactly my concern. Like, what are they hiding, really? As I said earlier, transparency, accountability, communication, and vision are the pillars that are absolutely necessary for a sound and effective government. This lack of communication, like even that videotaping and sharing the council meetings to keep Piscataway residents in the know about what's going on and concerning, that's concerning for me. I mean, if you think about it even now, with this current crisis of the coronavirus, there are so many other municipalities that are having council meetings virtually so that their residents can stay informed of the current crisis and the things that their government is doing to address any prior concerns. Any new business and residents need to know all of that is being done through these virtual meetings. So, I mean, what, did the Piscataway government go on a shutdown to conduct all their necessary business aside from the pandemic? Is there not anything that the township still needs to address, any needs or concerns? Have they made decisions that we don't know about? Have there been resolution hearings that we're entitled to know about? What's the status of Piscataway government? This is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And I apologize for the passion that you hear in my voice, but I don't think anyone would say yes to those questions. Government is still functioning. We just have no idea of what's going on with what our government is doing, aside from the pandemic. And I feel that our government has pretty much left us in the dark with what's going on in our township aside from the pandemic. They seemingly believe, and this is just Kamuela talking, that we are not knowledgeable enough to receive the information that they have about decisions they make. Or maybe that we can't research this information and have informed discussions and ask questions to our leaders for clarity. I mean, that's the dialogue that we need so that we can create a platform of informed residents who truly understand the impact of decisions that are being made on their behalf. And we also get to understand the motive and the mission behind our local leaders doing so. Hopefully, it's for our best interest. But I mean, even you just sharing that information that is so critical for us to know being omitted keeps bringing me to this question. What are they hiding? What is it? This is why we have to restore our voices and keep the platform of communication open so that once again, we are able to entrust these leaders to be our voice. And without that open form of communication, we've lost that. And we need to get that restored back into Piscataway as soon as possible.
Absolutely. And what are they hiding is an important question when they're not even giving us the information that they're required by law to give on these pilots. Now, you know, I know somebody's probably thinking, well, wait a minute, Bill, isn't it possible that failing to include a user-friendly budget was just an oversight, you know, an honest mistake, and that they aren't really trying to hide information on pilots? Well, you know, that's a good question. Let's talk about that a little more, and you can decide for yourselves what is the case. Because you see, the town website is not the only place that you can get a hold of the user-friendly budget. It can also be downloaded as a spreadsheet from the New Jersey State Department of Community Affairs website. And if you want to download them and check them out for yourselves, just go to this link. I know it's a little long, nj.gov/DLGS//fiscal_RPTS.HSTML. And when you download them as a spreadsheet, they have a number of tabs for the different forms. So I went to that website and I downloaded the user-friendly budget that Piscataway had submitted to the state, and I found something very interesting. Now, here's the spreadsheet for the 2018 user-friendly budget. And this is the same information we were looking at from before on the township's website. And I've circled the tab showing that this is Form UFB 6 tax abatements. Now let's look at the 2019 user-friendly budget. Where is Form UFB 6? I've circled the tabs at the bottom where it should be, but as you can see, it simply isn't there. Now that might be a little hard to see, so let's zoom in on that. See, we have UFB 4, UFB 5, UFB 7, UFB 8, no UFB 6. Now, you can decide for yourself if it's just a coincidence that the exact form a resident would need to analyze the impact of pilot programs on our community is the only form that just happens to be missing from a document that is submitted to the state and a document that is not posted on the town website, even though it is required by law. Or you could start asking a very good question. I've been talking for a little bit, so let me turn it back over to the council candidates if you wanted to comment more on that. Oh, you're all muted. You have to unmute if you.
I just wanted to speak to that. Bill, when we were planning this and doing some review, first of all, we were educating ourselves 110%. We were learning the system and really understanding what this topic was all about and all of the pieces and features of it. And I'm really proud of us for the legwork that we've been doing. Number two, of course, as an educator, I wanted to know how much money, maybe there was an incentive, maybe, whatever, it was worth it to bring these people in because we're going to get money for it, in some other way. But that's not going to happen when we see that it's 95% to the town and 5% to the county. So then my question as a taxpayer and as somebody who supports our schools 110%, how much money did we lose? Where is our budget losing by providing all these pilots for building? And we haven't even talked about the increase, number one, the development in warehouses, but we've also had a lot of housing developments come into town, a lot of new condos, and other, things that are bringing children and families, because we love Piscataway and it's a wonderful place to bring children and families, which is impacting our schools. And again, we're going to need revenue to support the new families and children, which is, again, overdevelopment is a topic for another day. But that was my question. How much are we losing? And we can't find the answer. It's a huge missing piece of that important question.
Yeah, definitely, Laura. And as an educator as well, and a resident, when you say the impact, we always talk about the schools, and when families move in and they have children, where are they going to go to schools? And the first thing I hear is, well, it's overcrowded. The school board should do this and that. Well, the simple fact of the matter is we have to be impacted first as a school board, and then be able to take that data and then try to build later. Mm-hmm. That's one of the hardest impacts of having this, because so often people don't equate the two as the same thing, as school board and council as the same, and they're not. I often always hear, well, pilots can be good. Look what it did for Jersey City. And I always have to say to you, well, you have to understand the impact of Jersey City at the time as well, because their school board was getting overfunded. They were getting 150% of school funding on top of having pilots to have a huge development. That is not what's happening in Piscataway. Not at all, not close. So that's why we have to study and we have to ask the questions. And being a council member, you have to be able to answer the tough questions. And when people come to you, you have to be able to explain it in a multitude of different ways so people can understand it and get some clarity. And that's what you're asking for in transparency. That's why we're here. We want to be a beacon of information, be able to direct you to areas where you can find the information and ask the question for yourself. And I hope that we're doing that.
Right.
Absolutely. I'm just going to chime into what everyone has said. And again, it just goes back to this transparency. An educated consumer is your best consumer because you have the information, the resources you need to make an informed decision for your benefit. It's no different when we talk about governance. Aside from the economic and the tax fairness in this whole issue of pilots, there's an environmental issue that we have not even discussed yet because we're just talking about the thing that hits us immediately, which is our pocket. Once we start really seeing the impact of all of these warehouses near residential homes as well as near our schools, we will see the environmental impact statement that should have been given to us to better decide if all of these warehouses were good for us, for tax fairness, as well as environmental issues, was the best solution. I think we have to keep in mind why open government is so important. We have some of the brightest and most talented residents in Piscataway, many who have a wealth of knowledge that they can bring to the table when township council and leaders have these decisions that they have to make. But without these talent advisory boards that people can put their talents to use, and that dialogue between our leaders and the residents, this is exactly what Piscataway is going to continue to keep having. And that's not fair. It's not fair. People have moved and invested in this community and given our voices for almost 20 years to people who vowed to listen to our concerns. And we understand in politics there is this thing called compromise to get things done. But compromise cannot be put to the table without resident input and resident questioning. And I think that is what's missing in Piscataway. There's been a big disconnect from the local leaders and the constituents in which they serve. And I want to be the bridge that kind of puts that back together by reaching out to residents, as well as we have been consistently reaching out to our local leaders. And I think that's what we need to move forward with to make this town a continual best place to live in New Jersey.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nikki. We had a couple of questions from the Facebook audience. One was, how are pilots used as negotiation tools? And another is, do cities offer different amounts and why? The short answer to the question is that in a pilot, everything is negotiable. As we said before, a township is not obligated to enter into a pilot agreement. You know, they can simply charge regular property taxes on a property. So the incentive on the developer side is they want to pay less property taxes. So now on the township's negotiating side, they say, well, all right, what are we going to get in return if you do that? So really everything in a pilot agreement, the amount of the pilot payment, as we're going to see a little bit later, apparently the land assessment itself, although I'm not entirely sure that that's legal, whether or not improvements are going to be made to the infrastructure. Sometimes the township will issue redevelopment bonds on behalf of the developer to finance the local road improvements or widenings that, you know, in some cases need to be made to accommodate, 120 trucks streaming in and out of a warehouse every day. But at the end of the day, everything is negotiable, and the township doesn't have to enter into the agreement. If the developer is not willing or does not want to be a good neighbor, if it doesn't want to enter into a community benefits agreement with the town, whereby we might ensure that, good jobs are going to be provided by it, union jobs with benefits and job security and protection for workers, the township is not obligated to enter into that agreement. Now, different cities will offer different amounts. Really, every pilot agreement is its own negotiation, and you have to weigh the potential costs versus the potential benefits and try to make the best deal that you can. So we're going to look at a case study of a particular pilot program. This one is not going to be an example of a good deal. This is the pilot that has been established for the project at 150 Old New Brunswick Road. Again, as crazy as it sounds, if a pilot is poorly constructed, it is possible for the total payments being made after the completion of that project to actually being less than the payments that were being made on the vacant land that was there without the project. And we're going to look at this particular project to see how that is possible. Now, because the township has not been producing the user-friendly budgets, the information for case studies like this is not particularly easy to come by, but with some digging, you can do it. Through a combination of Open Public Records Act requests for documents and research on publicly available tax records, we were able to put this information together, and we'd be happy to share our source documents with anyone who wants to double-check our work. For publicly available information about Piscataway assessed values, you can search the New Jersey tax records database here. I made a tiny URL, P-Way tax records, to make it a little bit easier to get there, but the full link is at the bottom of that page. As you can see, it's pretty long. The tiny URL is probably a lot easier. And when you go to that website, you have access to large amounts of records. And here's an example. The property at 150 Old New Brunswick Road, block 4501, lot 1.02, was sold by Stanley Karzinski to Duke Realty on April 18th of 2019 for $41 million. And this is a screenshot of that sale record. Now, after the sale, Mayor Waller and the council approved a pilot agreement between Duke Realty and the township of Piscataway. We obtained a copy of that 37-page agreement through an Open Public Records Act request. And when we started to look through it, we found that it contained a number of provisions that were very favorable to Duke Realty and unfavorable to Piscataway taxpayers. And the first of that has to do with the assessed value of the land. This slide's a little dense, so we'll go through it. We'll go through it together. But an artificially low land assessment means a huge tax break. You know, the 41-acre lot sold for $41 million, or approximately $1 million of an acre. Now, prior to that sale, the 2019 assessed land value was around $21 million, and the 2019 property tax was $498,000. Now, after the sale, the land was assessed at $31 million, and at a tax rate of 2.038, that would have a tax of $738,538. But Section 4.08 of the financial agreement says that the final 2020 assessment of the land is based on a true value of just $60,000 per acre, or 2.4 million or 2.5 million, and that the land tax will therefore be only $60,000, and also that Duke is entitled to a credit of that $60,000 against its other pilot payment for the improvements on the land. Now, this land just sold for $1 million an acre. Now, how can it possibly be worth only $60,000? That amounts to a tax giveaway of $679,000 roughly to Duke Realty. And, you know, again, that sounds too outrageous to be true. So just so you know, it's accurate. There's a screenshot of the last tax record before the pilot with the tax amount, and also a screenshot of the part of the agreement that reduced it to a true value of $60,000 per acre. Now, what about the improvements that are to be made there? That's where the pilot payment comes in, what's known as the annual service charge. That's for, you know, the land assessment is separate and is usually not part of a pilot agreement. So Schedule 1 of the agreement says that the annual service charge is 75.4 cents per square foot of gross floor area. Now, in a previous resolution, 20-99, the project is described as 622,000 square feet of warehouse. That number times 0.754 per square foot comes out to $469,214, and the land tax is credited against that pilot payment. So the total payments, the land tax and the pilot combined, will be approximately $469,214, which is less than the $498,000 that the land alone was generating in property taxes prior to this pilot agreement. So, you know, again, how is this possibly a good deal for taxpayers? And also, I know it sounds outrageous, so just so you know, I'm not making the numbers up. Here's the screenshot of the annual service charge schedule, and also Resolution 2099, and we're happy to make the whole documents available to anyone who wants them. Now, before we finish with this case study, I just want you to be aware of one more thing that was in Resolution 2099, and that is that your land was sold to Duke for 1/20th of its value. And by your land, I mean property owned by the township. You're part of the township, that's yours. Piscataway owned nearly an acre of land that was making up this project. And it was an acre that happened to be very important because it was necessary to extend South Randolphville Road through the traffic light that's currently there to make an entry to the warehouse. That makes it very valuable. Now, if you remember, the land right next to it just sold for $1 million an acre. Your acre was sold for $37,500 to Duke Realty. Once again, how is this a good deal for taxpayers? So to recap, After the warehouse is built, with the pilot in place, and mind you, we're going to get to the environmental impacts, but we're talking about 125 plus bay truck warehouse that's right next to the apartments there over on North Randolphville, that's close to Shore School. The township would be collecting almost $30,000 less than it was collecting from the land tax alone. Duke Realty got a tax giveaway of almost $680,000 because of the artificially low land assessment. Mayor Waller and the council sold your land to Duke Realty for 1/20th of its value. The developers get the huge tax breaks. We get more pollution and truck traffic. Again, what is being hidden? This is just one example of a pilot agreement, and we'll be going through all the rest of them as well. Piscataway had not today, that would get a little long, but Piscataway had 11 pilot agreements in place at the end of 2019, with more to come in 2020. The improvement value on the property covered by those agreements at the end of 2019 was $250 million. Now, this information I got from a property tax database that I built with publicly available New Jersey tax records. I've open sourced the procedure for building such a database. If anyone wants to replicate that work and do it themselves, I'll put how to do it out online. So at a 2.31% tax rate, the amount of regular property taxes that would be collected on an improvement value of $250 million is $5.8 million. Now, according to the 2019 budget, just $600,000.
And so, Bill, this is exactly the question that I was asking, right? What are we losing? What did we lose? That's what we lost. Almost $5.8 million.
Right.
It's insane.
Of course, the exact question of what we lost ends up being a little more complicated, because you can say, okay,
right,
perhaps the projects would not have been built without a pilot agreement. Like we know from the size of some of these giveaways that they probably wouldn't have been. But certainly a different agreement could have been made, or different projects could have been built. It's hard to believe that disparity is the best deal that can be struck. All right, that was a lot of information to go through, so I'm gonna take a break here if anyone else has a comment on that, or if we have more questions from our Facebook viewers.
There was one question. Was that 2099 a council resolution? Is that something that the township itself passed?
Yes, the Township Council passed Resolution 2099. At the meeting where they passed that resolution, Nikki, I think you were there, and Laura, you may have seen it. I mean,
Yes.
I presented all of this information to the council. Maybe you remember what their reaction was to it?
It was, I can tell you what the reaction was. They looked as though they knew nothing of what you were talking about, which begs to me to say not only is transparent lacking between us and the residents, but there seems to be a lack of transparency even between those council people making decisions on things that were decided upon. I'm assuming they were working together, but there definitely was a sense of, I'm not sure what you're talking about. And that to me made it seem like, but you decided on this. You voted. You voted for me as my Ward 3, District 2 leader for that. And you didn't seem like you understood what was going on. That bothered me a lot. A lot.
Yeah, there was no comment. Laura, I think you have a word for it.
Also, other residents asked to see that resolution before it was passed, and they were told it was proprietary. Another thing, and this is a little bit of a rabbit hole to go down, but, a lot of times when we have been at the meetings and we've asked for information or, further information on pieces, we're told go to the mayor's office. You can go to the mayor's office. Before they were building the Y. I asked for, what are the plans? What have we done to kind of reach out to the stakeholders of the town? What's going to be in this new place? Oh, you can go to the mayor's office. Why is that? It should be up on the website. You can do a public survey for things. You can share information. You can make a public document. We're doing it. So, you know, this holding of information very close to the chest. We all know and we've all experienced the stone wall of silence when we go to that microphone and we ask a question and we just get, we don't even get any type of acknowledgement. It's just, it falls on deaf ears, and it's really not representational government or engaged dialogue.
Apparently I spelled independent wrong on the slide, saying we need independent voices for council, which doesn't change the message that we need voices like yours that are independent on the council. My apologies for that one. There were quite a few slides. I guess I missed that, but we'll correct it before we post that online. Okay, so before we go today, we're just going to touch on the question real quick of why would a deal like this, that's a bad deal for Piscataway taxpayers, get made. Now, we're going to do a whole broadcast on campaign finance, but just as a precursor to that, and I know we're about to run over our hour, so we're going to go through this relatively quickly, but basically, if you want to know why things happen, follow the money. Just follow the money.
Yeah.
And that means researching campaign contributions. You can go to www.elect.state.nj.us public information /search database.htm. And that will bring you to this page, which is the campaign finance database. And with a little, digging around there, you can start to find all sorts of interesting things. I mean, a couple of things to think about, and again, we'll go into more detail in future broadcasts, but that case study property that we talked about at 150 Old New Brunswick Road was owned by Stanley Karzinski, and sold for $41 million in a deal made possible by a pilot that is a bad deal for taxpayers, a very good deal for Mr. Karzinski. And over the years, it turns out that Karzinski's have contributed nearly $20,000 to the campaigns of local Democratic Party boss, Senator Bob Smith. The warehouse project that we talked about at 800 Centennial Road, the one that we showed the picture where it's looming over everyone's houses, that was developed by Premier Design Group. They're based out in Illinois. You've got a Premier Design Group executive from Illinois, donating $2,600 to a New Jersey race, to Senator Smith in June of 2018. Why would that happen? Why does that person have such a sudden interest in legislative district 17 New Jersey politics? Again, follow the money. Things start to make a lot of sense in perspective when you do that kind of research. So just to sort of review, when Mayor Waller and the town council say they can't do anything about a development and that development has a pilot agreement, they're simply lying. It's not true. When they're not done properly, they can be a bad deal for taxpayers. Information vital to understand the impact of pilots on Piscataway taxpayers is not being provided. Why not? What are they hiding? The pilot we studied with Duke Realty will bring less revenue and more truck traffic. And finally, of course, if you want to know why things happen, follow the money. As we said before, today's presentation slides will be posted at this web address. And for more information, you can always read our platform at tinyurl.com/PWay platform. So unless there are any more questions from Facebook, I think we're going to wrap it up for this week. If the council candidates want to say a few words in closing.
Right, I just go first because I'm on the upper left-hand corner. Just to remind everybody, I'm Laura Leibowitz, running for town council. I am a over 15-year resident of Piscataway, having worked with the children and families of Piscataway for over 30 years. It's a beautiful township. I'm very proud of everything that our families and residents have to offer here. And I also just want to remind people that on our Facebook page, there are a lot of resources for people that are looking for them, with the neighborhood network, with the unemployment and those issues that we addressed last week. So please feel free to avail yourself of that and reach out to me or any of us with any questions or anything that you might be looking for. And I want to wish everybody a happy Passover, a happy Easter, preparing for Ramadan, as we said, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Laura. That was great. I want to close on a positive note. I would love everyone to reach out to our Neighborhood Aid Network. Myself and a few other council people here that were going to be council people, we're putting together drop-off and deliveries for our elderly. We're setting up where they can actually order online with the actual ShopRite. They'll have them already bagged up. We'll pick them up and deliver them to your door. Also, those who are in need, the network aid is a wonderful tool, but if you can't do that, you can also hit us up online, or if you have to reach out to me direct, we'll get some other ways to reach out to you for those who don't have technology. Again, happy holidays. Please stay safe and hydrated. And again, I'm Ralph Johnson, running for council at large.
And I am Kamuela Tillman, running for council. I am just really passionate and excited because I just simply love Piscataway Township. I'm a 30-year transplant from the Newark East Orange area, and I've known the value of my voice in the years of living through my grandmother and my mother, who also had served on the Civil Rights Advisory Council. And they taught me the importance of communication and dialogue. And I think for me, running, that's the one thing that I've always tried to do, whether I volunteered as a soccer mom, coach, or team manager, whether I was a rec or choir parent, president. I've always tried to make sure that people were informed and they had the power to use whatever information they had to make the best decisions that was available for them and their family. I want to continue that trend, and I've done it through canvassing and being county committee woman. And I think that's the one mission that I have, is to make sure that I am accessible to you and that there is no concern that is too small that you can't bring to me to make sure that we can put our heads together to get it done. And I think that's what's important, that your voice matters to me. And like I said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I truly care more about people than I care about positions or possessions. So thank you again. Happy Easter, happy Passover, and soon Ramadan for those who will be celebrating. Thank you for this opportunity to serve you and to be a leader and a voice for Piscataway residents. I am honored and I am humbled. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much again for joining us this week. We hope you found the information interesting and helpful, and we look forward to sharing more information with you and hearing your thoughts and your insights on what's going on in our community. My name is Bill Irwin. I'm running for mayor together with Ralph Johnson for council, Kamuela Tillman for council, Laura Leibowitz for council. We are the Dems on your side, and we thank you very much for being with us today, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.